You know, today is the first day in a long time that I've woken up and felt a sense of certainty when it comes to Nintendo. You know, I can safely say, and it's not, a prediction or, conjecture based on a rumor, I can safely say that there will be a Nintendo Switch 2 reveal within the next 9 months. I can safely say that there will be a Nintendo Direct in June within 6 weeks. That feels good. In a time where everything has been so rumor-based and speculation-based, it is nice to have some concrete details from Nintendo. But today I wanted to discuss something that I found a little peculiar from their financial investors meeting last night, and that is how many Switches they intend to sell this fiscal year ending March 31st, as well as how many pieces of software they're planning on selling this fiscal year. Because based on what we know of the Switch's lineup in 2024 as it stands, based on how the Switch sold in 2023, I think it looks a little optimistic. The numbers seem pretty good. It is a drop-off based on the previous year, but it's a very small drop-off. And last year had Tears of the Kingdom and the Mario movie and Mario Wonder, and there was like new OLED bundles for the Switch for Tears of the Kingdom. So for them to expect a pretty small drop-off, I wanted to take today's video to kind of discuss with you all what we think Nintendo might do in 2024 to offset those declining sales. Let's get into it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at some nerdy Nintendo sales data and speculating what it means for the future of the Nintendo Switch into 2024 and beyond, because there were some pretty interesting forecasts that they put out yesterday that I find just very interesting, and it makes me definitely speculate, like, what are they planning on releasing in 2024 to make these numbers happen, you know? Now, let's take a quick look at some tweets from the account Pierre485 on Twitter. They are a great resource for making like all these charts and graphs based on Nintendo's financial data that they released to investors and to the public. They put out a couple tweets here that I wanted to read before we really dive into the nitty-gritty of this. So, first things first, Nintendo expects the Switch to pass the Nintendo DS by March 2025. The company is forecasting over 154.82 million units for the Switch by March 2025, which basically equates to 13.5 million Switches sold in the next 12 months, or really the next like 11, because it's already May. For comparison, the DS shipped 2.35 million units during its 9th fiscal year. So they're expecting to ship 13.5 million units in the next 12 months. It is worth noting that they only shipped 15.7 million in the same previous period, which once again is when they've released Tears of the Kingdom, released the Super Mario Bros. Movie. They released a ton of Mario games in general, and including Mario Wonder. So a lot of big selling games released last year, and they managed to ship 15.7 million, which is very good for a console that was in, what, its 7th year? But it doesn't end there, because for software, Nintendo is forecasting 165 million units shipped for the Nintendo Switch, ending in March 2025. And Pierre adds some commentary here. Their software forecast is always conservative. For example, their forecast for last year was 180 million units, and they ended up selling just under 200 million pieces of software for the Switch last fiscal year. So we have a situation here where they're expecting very small declines over last year, a year that had major releases, 10 million plus seller games. In the case of Tears of the Kingdom, over 20 million in that fiscal year. And we don't know anything like that for 2024. We don't know any games that could potentially sell even close to that, in my opinion. And considering they only managed to sell just under 2 million Switches from January to March, I gotta be honest, that number seems pretty optimistic, but maybe it's not. Maybe we can kind of figure out why Nintendo thinks that they can sell so many Switches and so much software in 2024. I think if you are a Nintendo fan, you can look at these numbers and be very happy, because this, to me, says they have some major games we don't know about, but also maybe some price cuts for the current Switch, maybe a revision, a Switch Mini or something that's even cheaper than the Switch Lite. I know everybody's been doom and gloom that the Switch might have a pretty weak 2024, and yeah, maybe the first 6 months of the year wasn't filled with 10 million plus seller games and stuff like Endless Ocean and Another Code, which are really cool, but maybe not gonna, make a lot of money. But given this forecast, I think it is clear we are getting some pretty massive stuff in 2024. And like I said, maybe some price cuts. So we'll start with the software. 165 million units of software in this fiscal year. Now, if they expected to sell 180 million, in a year where they knew they were releasing Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Wonder and Pikmin 4, as well as like Mario RPG and Detective Pikachu Returns and some other things. That was also when Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was still relatively new. It's going to sell even less this time. What are they releasing to hit anywhere near close to that number? Now, there are a couple things here that are worth noting. The first major one being Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, I got a lot of replies on my tweet about this, saying, oh, well, it's obvious they're talking about Pokemon Legends ZA. Pokemon Legends ZA is not confirmed to release in early 2025. There seems to be this misconception that that is a confirmed piece of information. All Pokemon Company said was that it would release in 2025. When they announced Legends Arceus back in 2021, they explicitly said, yes, this game will release in early 2022, and that ended up happening. For Legends ZA, all they said was 2025. So a lot of us kind of expected, like, well, maybe like halfway through the year we'll see Pokemon Legends ZA, but I think this forecast, to me, definitely does indicate an early 2025 release. And this could be a whole separate topic, but my thought process there is, if they can get Legends ZA ready for January, or frankly even March, I feel like they could probably squeeze it out for the holiday. Which leads me to my next thing. Is it possible that we're getting another Pokemon game this year? I can't think of many Nintendo properties right now that can easily sell 10 million plus units within a short time frame. But Pokemon is one of them that will do it every single time. So Pokemon Legends ZA, yeah, that game's going to sell over 10 million copies probably in like the first week or two. And that could release in January, February, March, whenever. But that's only one game. I think if they're planning on hitting 165 million units, there needs to be at least 2, maybe even 3 games releasing with a ceiling that high. I mean, that's what happened last year when they were expecting to hit 180 million units. They released Tears of the Kingdom as well as Mario Wonder. So if we get Legends ZA early next year, I think there would be something else this year. Now, once again, pure speculation and maybe a little bit of copium. That could be another Pokemon game in my opinion. I'm not ruling that out completely yet, but it could also be something like a new Donkey Kong game, a new Mario Party game. Metroid Prime 4 will probably release this year in my opinion. But the issue there is none of those games are guaranteed 10 million plus sellers. Mario Party Superstars is still selling really well, and it just recently passed, I believe, 13 million after close to 3 years on the market. Though maybe a combination of Pokemon Legends ZA and a new Donkey Kong game that will sell like 6 or 7 million copies, Metroid Prime 4, which will hopefully sell like 4 to 6 million copies, a Mario Party. You have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which will probably do pretty well based on how Luigi's Mansion 3 did. You have Thousand Year Door, and most importantly, you have the back catalog of Switch software that will keep selling to new buyers. And this is something that Furukawa actually said in a Q&A following their investor financials meeting. So the president of Nintendo, Shintaro Furukawa, was asked, if the expected hardware sales volume for the current fiscal year ending March 2025 does not include the successor model of Nintendo Switch, the decline compared to the previous fiscal year ending March 2024 will seem small. Do you think that even if you announce a successor model, the momentum of the Nintendo Switch business will not be affected? And Furukawa responded, the expected sales volume for the current fiscal year does not include the successor model of the Nintendo Switch. That's actually important for another reason, but I'll talk about that in another video. Although sales of the Nintendo Switch hardware have remained relatively strong, it is now 8 years since release. As a result, we recognize that it is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain momentum as time passes. Despite this, during last year's year-end sale season, we were able to get many new customers, including children and families, to pick up Nintendo Switch, especially overseas. In addition to releasing new titles during the current fiscal year, we believe that we will continue to be able to generate new demand as the Super Mario Bros. Movie has been viewed by many people through various means since its theatrical release. Furthermore, and this is the important part, although a lot of software has already been released for the Nintendo Switch, if we can properly promote the appeal of classic titles like this, we can increase the number of titles in the home created by the unique value of Nintendo Switch. We believe we can still pursue demand for machines. So basically, Furukawa was saying there, one of their tentpole strategies in 2024 is going to be selling old games, which we've seen every year. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sells like hotcakes. Super Mario Party, Breath of the Wild, Smash Bros. Ultimate, New Horizons, all of these games sell very, very good despite being several years old. Now, I'll be honest, I've been kind of hesitant on this idea of a Nintendo Selects line for Nintendo Switch, but based on that comments, I think you can kind of extrapolate that they are planning on really propping up their old releases this year. Maybe even some repackages. I know in Japan they released Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with all of the DLC on the cartridge. Maybe we finally get that overseas, you know, that kind of thing. Or maybe it is just that Nintendo Selects line where they put Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening, and a bunch of other games on sale for like $30 retail, and that will help move a lot of units. So between a potential Nintendo Selects line, as well as a Pokemon game, and a couple other, 5 to 10 million sellers, maybe that 165 million forecast for software isn't that far-fetched. But 13.5 million for hardware still seems a little high. So they managed to sell 15.7 million last fiscal year for Switch, but once again, that was the year that Tears of the Kingdom launched, as well as Mario Wonder and the Mario movie. A lot of that momentum is definitely going to fade this year. That to me implies that maybe we will see some sort of price cut for the Nintendo Switch in 2024. We haven't had one yet, but it's something that I actually predicted back in January. We would see at least, bare minimum, a price cut for the Nintendo Switch OLED, and at that point, either a price cut for the original Switch or it being discontinued altogether. Because if they're planning to announce the Switch 2 or the Switch successor this fiscal year, in my opinion, it's safe to say that that console will probably be priced around $400 to maybe $450 at most. The Switch OLED currently retails for $350. I don't really think it makes sense to have both those products on the shelf at the same time with such a small price discrepancy. So at the very least, the Switch OLED needs to go down to $300. Ideally, it would go down to $250, but maybe that's wishful thinking. So yeah, I think the Switch OLED has to have its price dropped. At that point, either the original Switch would be discontinued or dropped down to $250 or even $200, maybe $225 or something. And then maybe the Switch OLED goes down to like $180 retail, because that's still retailing for $200. A price cut like that, accompanied by aggressive bundling during the holiday season like we saw last year with Mario Kart and every Switch, or, you know, the Animal Crossing Switch Lite bundles they did. Maybe this year we get some new special editions for Metroid Prime 4 or that new Donkey Kong game, or, you know, these things I'm speculating. Legend ZA could have a special edition OLED. There's plenty of ways that Nintendo can offset their losses this year by doing price cuts and by leveraging their old software on top of, in my opinion, what will probably be a relatively decent holiday season in terms of new games as well. I think there will be some pretty exciting games released for the Nintendo Switch in 2024. But as always, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. How do you think Nintendo is planning to keep this level of momentum for the Nintendo Switch in 2024? Do you think we will see Nintendo Selects come back? Do you think we will see a price cut for the Switch hardware? And what games do you think they're actually planning on releasing? We have confirmation of a June Nintendo Direct. It's only a matter of time before we see what they're planning for the final full year of the Nintendo Switch. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch news, reviews, coverage. Tomorrow, I will be posting a video talking about when I think the Switch 2 will actually be announced and released. Now that we have official confirmation of it from the horse's mouth, we know it's happening within the next, like, 8 or 9 months. It's only a matter of time, so that'll be tomorrow's video. And, yeah, follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames as well. And until next time, folks, peace.